In this deep dive, I will not just review and analyze the Vice investigation, but also uncover what they couldn't fit in their original release. New leaks, court cases, and survival stories that have emerged since then. If you thought the Vice documentary was chilling, wait until you see the evidence and patterns that have come to light. Buckle up, because this is a full story they didn't want you to see. If you are new to this channel, I'm Dr. K, a theologian, author, international consultant, and polemist. In addition to 3 other degrees, I hold 2 PhDs and a bachelor's degree in theology with distinction. I specialize in exposing secrecy in religious institutions, including institutions and individuals that misuse the Bible to manipulate their members. If you crave for such deep dives, subscribe and smash the notice bell so that you don't miss what is coming next. The crisis is exploding in real time. What? California, a $2.8 million award are paid for a child molested during field service by a known offender. Montana, confidential settlements reached after Watchtower was found to have destroyed the evidence. Pennsylvania, 5 more members of the Jehovah's Witnesses charged with child sexual abuse, following 22 cases involving 19 victims.
Happening today, the Pennsylvania Attorney General announcing charges against 5 men for allegedly sexually abusing children for years. All of them were members of the Jehovah's Witnesses Church.
Children are some of our most vulnerable members of society.
It's the reason Pennsylvania Attorney General Michelle Henry is focused on child sex abuse cases and one big investigation involving members of Jehovah's Witness congregations.
Court orders. Watchtower forced to release internal abuse databases. In one case, the Watchtower was to be charged $4,000 for every day they refused to submit the files to the court.
From the Center for Investigative Reporting and PRX, this is Reveal. I'm Al Letson.
Then, something kind of unbelievable happened. The Jehovah's Witnesses gave in. In Irwin's next case, they agreed to hand over the documents. They'd finally cracked, and Irwin would get the files. But when they started rolling in, something was wrong. The names of all the alleged abusers were blacked out. And Irwin only got 4 years of documents. There were another 15 years he was supposed to get. He went back to the judge, who demanded that the Jehovah's Witnesses turn over all the documents with the names. They refused, and the court ordered them to pay a fine of $4,000 a day until they comply.
This accumulated to $2 million. The Watchtower was willing to touch $2 million to keep the names of alleged pedophiles confidential.
You're talking about 14,400 congregations and over 3 million documents that have been scanned in that would have to be searched. It would take years to do that.
That's Richard Ash, a senior Watchtower official. The judge ordered them to produce the documents.
They refused. They just simply refused to do it.
The Jehovah's Witnesses fought the order all the way to the California Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court, in a matter of days, just turned around and said, no, produce. They didn't. They defied the trial court. They defied the Court of Appeals. And they defied the California Supreme Court. They willfully refused to produce the documents.
This is not normal. A defendant in a lawsuit just flat out refusing an order that's been upheld by the state Supreme Court.
Now, these aren't isolated cases. They are part of the global pattern of concealment and institutional protection. Let's revisit the Vice expose and look at the core allegation. The Vice documented laid the groundwork: child abuse cover-ups, survivor detail repeated assaults, elders discouraging members to report to the police. The Vice also talked about the 2-witness rule, that internal police demands 2 witnesses to substantiate abuse, a near impossibility in the case of child abuse, because People who abuse children don't do it where there is even a single witness. The documentary also talked about secrecy and shunning. Victims labeled as liars, ostracized, offenders quietly relocated or reinstated, settlements conditioned on silence, survivors forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. So in other words, once they sign those NDAs, that's the end. No one will hear of it again. The case is buried. The perpetrators and the Watchtower protected from image damage. But the full story is even darker. The secret database exposed. Leaked documents show that the Jehovah's Witnesses maintains a database of alleged child abuse perpetrators containing tens of thousands of names, but they are not reported to the police. Legal department instructed elders on how to avoid mandatory reporting to authorities.
They say the Bible teaches them that child abuse is a confidential matter. We know this because we have their memos. They read like a mashup of corporate policy and Bible verse, and they tell elders to hide child sexual abuse from police. Here's what they tell them to do. First, when elders learn about abuse, they have to immediately call the Watchtower's legal department. No one else, not law enforcement, not other members of their congregations.
Written, demanded, commanded policy. Very different. The Catholic Church, it was this unwritten. They called it viva voce, by voice only. They didn't have it written down anywhere. It was just understood. Here it's in writing. I mean, there's no question.
Intentional reach. This database is referenced in court cases across the US, Canada, and Australia. Then you have court resistance. The Watchtower for disclosure at every level, prioritizing secrecy over child safety. This is systemic concealment and not just negligence. The global scope. The same pattern appears worldwide. Australia's Royal Commission, over 1,000 alleged abusers never reported. Now, the very fact that these children were not in care, like it happens maybe in schools or in orphanages, the Watchtower was able to dodge legal responsibility. Then there's the Norway's constitutional crisis. Government stripped JW funding over shunning, exposing human rights violations. Canada W5 investigations, identical policies, elders shielding abusers, court-imposed judgments, government investigates systemic failures. Japan and Netherlands. Policies documented that mirror US practices, showing a coordinated international strategy. Human cost, survivor testimonies. Now, these aren't numbers, they are lives. Survivors describe long life depression, family estrangement, decades lost to shame and fear, shunning, families torn apart, parents forced to choose between faith and their own children, or children to choose between faith and their own parents. Children internalizing guilt and responsibility for their abuse. Generation trauma. The pain doesn't end with the victim. It ripples through entire families. The organization psychology. The Watchtower's leadership mantra is protect Jehovah's name at all costs. Judicial committees enforce silence, threaten excommunication for speaking out. Parental pressure. Parents must shun their own children or risk losing their community. Elder training. Elder training is focused on legal protection, not child protection. Obedience over compassion. Acts of kindness become punishable if they threaten organization brand. If you show compassion to a disfellowshipped person, you too would be disfellowshipped. Here is the clip.
After you got disfellowshipped, you obviously went back. Was a big reason the fear of just losing all your community and your social bonds with friends and family?
Yeah, it became a harsh reality. And because, especially all my family were Jehovah's Witnesses, it just felt like I have to get back in, right? Because I can't not have this ability to have relationships with all my family. My brother-in-law, who was a ministerial servant, was removed because they didn't immediately kick me out of their house when I was disfellowshipped. So there were consequences for the people that I think kept contact. And that's, a good way to keep those people in line with all the rules as well and enforce this is, well, if you're going to talk, you can be disfellowshipped for having a relationship, like even a family relationship with somebody who's disfellowshipped.
This is a system that is built on suppressing the truth and shield the powerful. Legal reckoning accelerate. 2024 saw a surge in accountability. Montana, Watchtower settles rather than face trial after document destruction is exposed. California, religious freedom arguments rejected. Organization held liable for failing to protect children. Pennsylvania, criminal charges mounting. Prosecutors urge more victims to come forward. International, Norway, Australia, and others reject religious exemptions for child protection failures. The tide is turning, but the fight is far from over. Beyond the vast, the deeper root. Vice only scratched the surface. There is more. Coordinated policies, designated to contain scandal, not protect children. Legal tactics, prioritize organization survival, not victim justice. Training materials, teach elders to avoid creating discoverable evidence. Reputation management, image over morality, secrecy over safety. This is not about isolated instances. It's about a global operation managing liability and control. The fight continues. What's next? Accountability is gaining ground. Survivors are breaking the silence, risking everything for justice. Legal systems are finally rejecting religious exemptions. Mandatory reporting laws being strengthened worldwide. Human rights organizations are documenting and exposing abuses. But the Watchtower continues to fight disclosure, appeal judgments, and double down on secrecy. Silence protects predators. Share this investigation. Support survivor networks. Demand lawmakers to enforce mandatory reporting and hold religious institutions accountable. No exceptions. Vice pulled back the curtain, but the full truth is even darker. An international system of secrecy, decades in the making. Thousands of victims, decades of silence, and the globe network of secrecy. What do you think? Do you think that the Watchtower's reckoning is long overdue? Put your comments below. If you're interested to know how the Watchtower came up with this database containing tens of thousands of names of alleged abusers, click on this link.